London court sentences former Deputy Senate President Ekweremadu to jail for organ trafficking in spite of series of pleas for clemency. His wife and family doctor also sentenced at the Old Bailey. And the Labour Party leadership impasse is still very much in the news. The next meeting held by the Lamidi Akpakpa faction has raised some dust with the executives loyal to Julius Abure, and we find out if there can be reconciliation tonight. Well, hello and welcome to the program. I'm Kairo Kikiolu, sitting in for Shenwa Kimbaloye here in Lagos. We begin tonight with what is turning out to be the biggest story of the day. It's the sentencing in the UK of Nigeria's former Deputy Senate President Ekweremadu, his wife Beatrice, and their physician, Dr. Obeta. Well, this is a case that has shocked Nigeria and the world because Senator Ekweremadu is Nigeria's longest-serving Deputy Senate President, the fifth most powerful man in government as at that time between 2007 and 2019. This is a first-of-its-kind verdict that saw Senator Ekweremadu sentenced to 9 years and 8 months in prison, his wife Beatrice 4 years and 6 months, while their doctor, Obinna Obeta, received a 10-year prison term following their conviction for organ trafficking in March. Well, our correspondent, Juliana Olainka, joins us from London. She's been on this since it broke last year, June, and she was in court today for the sentencing. Juliana, what a day it has been, really. The day has finally come. The sentence has been handed down. Can you take us through what played out in court today, Juliana?
Goodness me. Well, I think you're pretty correct, Kayode, in describing this as a pretty mammoth, as I've said to viewers, very complicated, complex case that has spanned two jurisdictions, that has sent shockwaves, not just in Nigeria through the political class, but of course through Twitter, through Instagram, through social media, and of course here in Britain. I'm sure everybody knows now that this was actually televised live. It was televised live across Britain today. So millions of people who before today would never have heard of the senator know exactly about their plight. Today at the Old Bailey, it was a very long hearing. It began at about 10 o'clock. We didn't get the final verdict from the judge until about 2:30, and I think everybody was absolutely shocked because, of course, as you said, this is a landmark case. Nothing of its kind has ever been heard in the courts of England and Wales. This is the first time we are seeing such a verdict on Section 2 of the Modern Slavery Act of 2015, and you've gone through those very lengthy prison sentences. The senator being sentenced to 9 years and 8 months in prison, Beatrice Ekweremadu 4 years and 6 months, and Dr. Obinna Obeta 10 years. Now, anybody that is familiar with the UK judiciary system will know that they are very unlikely to spend that amount of time in prison. I believe between them, or as individuals, they probably spent about 200 days in custody. Of course, that's going to be taken into account. And then, of course, typically here in the UK, your sentence is reduced by half in terms of how much time you actually spend in prison. So perhaps if we look at the senator, for example, 9 years and 8 months, he may serve about 4 years if we take into account how many times he's spent in prison already, and then he'll spend the rest on license. But, you know, even 4 years in prison for the senator is a complete fall from grace in its whole entirety. In fact, I think it's worth saying that the judge did say about all three defendants, but particularly, of course, to the senator, that he is a man of good character. I think it's worth saying that, as you quite rightly said, Kayode, there were several letters, in fact, 51 letters pleading for clemency, asking for justice to be tempered with mercy, was actually sent to the judge, to the Crown Prosecution Service, and also to the Central Criminal Court. And in his summary, the judge did actually say that one of the reasons why the sentencing wasn't much higher for the senator was because of those letters. And so I think it's very, very important that we take stock of the fact that the intervention by the Senate, the intervention by the House of Representatives from ECOWAS, from the former President Olusegun Obasanjo, really did help this case. But unfortunately, it just didn't go far enough. It was a very, very tense scene and atmosphere in court, very emotional. Of course, at the heart of this is Sonia Ekweremadu, who still is suffering from a very debilitating, very costly kidney disease, a disease that she may not survive from. Of course, during the time that she's been spending visiting private clinicians in London, that has had some cost. Then you take into account the cost that it has accumulated for the senator to defend himself. It's certainly gone into hundreds of thousands of pounds. His defence lawyer said to the judge that the senator's in debt. He's in debt of up to £1 million. He's been borrowing money from friends and family. So it has been a very emotional day. And I think we've got to reference is the fact that the president of Nigeria is in London at the moment. He's been invited to London officially to attend certain coronation celebrations on behalf of King Charles, who is now the head of state of Britain. And unfortunately, I do think his presence has been marred with the fact that, as you quite rightly said, once the fifth most powerful man in Nigeria, has been sentenced for such a long time.
Well, Juliana, one can literally feel the emotion, all of the different emotional twists in that story. Thank you for your reportage. You've been following this from June when it broke. So thank you once again, our London correspondent Juliana Olayinka, walking us through what played out in the courts today. But this didn't just happen upon us. So let's take you through the major events that defined this case. All right. It started as far back as June the 23rd, 2022, up until today. So we'll give you some of the snippets. But as Juliana Olayinka rightly said earlier on, President Muhammadu Buhari is, in fact, in London, incidentally, a different part of London, I should add, and is there ahead of the coronation of King Charles III, which is meant to take place, well, in a few hours from now, tomorrow. The president's team released some images earlier on, and they showed the president receiving briefing in company of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Monguno, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, and Nigeria's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Ambassador Sarfa Ishola, amongst others. So it's quite interesting that the president is in London at the time the sentence was handed down to Senator Ekweremadu, his wife, and the doctor. This is a landmark judgment, as my colleague Juliana has said. There's some, fact of the case that a lot of people may have missed, not forgetting that timeline. We're going to be getting into that for you and perhaps the way forward from here. In the meantime, let's take you through some other trending political stories. Here's your political roundup.
The Court of Appeal in Abuja has upheld the conviction and 8-year sentence imposed on the former chairman of the Pension Reform Task Team, Abdulrasheed Maina, for laundering about 2.1 billion naira. Delivering judgment, a 3-member panel of the court unanimously affirmed the judgment delivered by Justice Okonabang of the Federal High Court of Abuja, convicting and sentencing him on November 8, 2021. In the lead judgment, Justice Elfrida Daudu also affirmed the various interlocutory rulings delivered in the course of the trial at the Federal High Court, which Maina appealed. Justice Daudu also resolved the 2 issues identified for determination against Maina and held that he was not denied fair hearing by the trial court and that the prosecution proved his case beyond reasonable doubt. Members of the People's Democratic Party in Kogi State have restated their commitment to ensuring that power is shifted to Kogi West Senatorial District of the state in the November 11 governorship election. This is according to the chairman of the party in the state, Mr. Sam Uhotu, who was speaking during the unveiling of Senator Dino Melaye as the candidate of the party. Mr. Uhotu notes that voting a governor from Kogi West is in line with equity, fairness and justice and is in consonance with the rotation of power in the state. The youth wing of the All Progressives Congress in Oyo State are asking members of the party to look beyond the gubernatorial election loss in the state and come together to help the president-elect administer good governance. Some of the leaders of the group are speaking in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, where they asked members to unite in the interest of the party and national development, particularly ahead of the inauguration of the president-elect Senator Bola Tinubu.
Since after the election, a lot of our members have been hibernating, and we thought that this would be an opportunity to bring everybody together to say that we may have lost the gubernatorial race, we have not lost in total.
The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has declared Emmanuel Udo of the Young Progressives Party as the winner of the February 25 House of Representatives election conducted in Ikone-Ini Federal Constituency of Akwa Ibom State. The returning officer for the constituency, Mr. Patrick Adeoro, made the declaration at the constituency collation office today in presence of collation officers and agents of political parties. The Imo State government says it has set motion in place to produce at least 500 billionaires under the age of 35 years between the year 2022 and 2026 through its Imo State digital economy agenda. The Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma disclosed this while flagging off the second phase of the Scale Up Imo project for youth in Owerri, the state capital. According to the governor, the Scale Up Imo project is designed to infuse Imo youth into the 21st century digital skills and digital world with overall objectives of training a minimum of 300,000 Imo youths in digital skills and digital revolution within the space of 3 years.
Scale Up Imo project, an initiative developed to infuse Imo youths with 21st century digital skills in line with Pillar 1 of the Imo digital economy agenda.
So let's bring you the first conversation for the day. It's about that big story, the sentencing of former Deputy Senate President Ekweremadu, his wife, and their physician in London at the Old Bailey. Lots of legal issues right there, the intricacies, understanding the laws, what the law says, and perhaps the way forward. We're joined on the program this evening by Dr. Kayode Ajula, who is a legal practitioner, a fellow Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, United Kingdom, managing partner, Castle of Law at London. He joins us live from our Abuja studio. Good evening, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Hello, good evening, Kayode. It's my pleasure.
I know this is a case a lot of people have followed, not just legal practitioners, essentially people in Nigeria and outside the country, a big one. But you're a legal practitioner as well, and you're familiar, at least with the laws in the United Kingdom. So can you just help us understand, what are the facts that were decided upon today?
Well, what's the major issue I believe we need to get our attention into is basically the Modern Slavery Law Act of 2015. And if you remember, the United Kingdom has been a forerunner of anti-slavery right from about two centuries ago. That's when we have the likes of Ajayi Crowther and co. And if you remember, in part of what made that law to be is that as at now, the global index rate of slavery is over 40 million. And when we talk of slavery, it is not the direct slavery with the one you use your money to buy, but in some things, some transaction are slavery in nature, and that's why we have that act. And the act, unfortunately, seems to have something we can call strict liability offense. Offense in the sense that the intent of whosoever may have committed it will not be the issue. What matters most is that it has happened. And in this matter, unfortunately, the distinguished Senator Ekweremadu has been found wanting in the sense that someone is alleged to have been taken to the UK based on the issue of his child, that is his daughter. that they need to do some organ transplant. And again, another thing we have to know quite well is that there's a difference between organ donation and organ harvesting. There's nothing wrong in doing organ donation, in donating organ, but it is like a very thin line between these two concepts. That is organ donation and organ harvesting. Harvesting seems to be transactional. There must be some issues, and that can be. And when it turns to organ harvesting, it is a crime, and it falls under this Modern Slavery Act. Quite unfortunate, like I do say, any issue that has to do with criminal liability is unfortunate. Quite unfortunate that it happened to Ekweremadu, because with the letters, plea of mercy, left and right, though which I believe is erroneously done in my own understanding, you can see that it is more of issue of parents trying to save the child, but unfortunately it's something that went wrong. It's a transaction that went wrong, and law, we've been saying, is no respecter of anyone, and that is why today Ekweremadu and his family is going down for it.
When you talk about those letters or clemency that were written, I mean, former President Olusegun Obasanjo wrote, where we had calls from the National Assembly, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. The IHRC also wrote, the ECOWAS Parliament wrote as well. And you say that perhaps it were done erroneously. What do you mean by that?
Well, in my own opinion, I believe it was done erroneously, because what we have to know is this. There is thin line between interferencing with the smooth running of courts and writing letters. Yes, there's allocutors, there's always a plan for that. And Ekweremadu has his own lawyer. My understanding is that if there must be such letter, you don't need to turn it to rooftop advocacy, particularly when there's a pending case. And to me, it is more like interference. The best way to do it is that since Ekweremadu has his legal team, whatsoever may be the letter to show that he has a very good character, which I believe in, should be sent to the lawyer. And during the time when the lawyer will ask for that, maybe the judge should temper justice with mercy, that is when such kind of issue need to be raised. But to take to the public when the matter is going on, and don't forget, this is the UK where judge don't pardon me with using that word, don't give a damn is what is happening on the street, what is happening in public. It is what is before the court that will be. And I want to believe that this is like a carryover of what our politicians are doing. A matter will be in court, and instead for us to allow the judge to do the case at their feet, we take to the street, we turn ourselves to another judge, passing judgment, passing comment, and we should not be. To me, that should not be. And now, and I think I need to make another suggestion. Now that Ekweremadu has been sentenced, and has been sentenced, the best way, this is an auspicious time to do that. Tomorrow, King Charles III will be coronated as the King of England, as the head of state. There is what is called royal prerogative for pardon. And I believe anybody that wants to write letter, anybody that wants to make plea for Ekweremadu, this is the best time to ask the sovereign of the United Kingdom, that's His Majesty, King Charles III, to do the writing to pardon Ekweremadu. The precedent has been there since as far back as 1717. King George did the same, 2003, to even as very close to 2021, the same thing has been happening. Sovereign can do that, and I believe that is the plea we need to be making for Ekweremadu, not to be writing and to be interfering with the conduct of the court.
I wonder as well, the talk about even diplomatic options. I know that talk was rife at some point, saying, there could be some sort of conversation through that route, diplomacy. Is it that diplomacy also doesn't work when it comes to issues of the courts?
I think we're having two issues there, because I remember many people has been making the issue that Ekweremadu being being the fourth, number 4 person being of his office as the deputy Senate president, maybe he has some issue of diplomatic passport. But I want to believe that by the law, carrying diplomatic passport is different from whether you are covered by the Diplomatic Immunity and Privileges Act. as the one in UK and every other places. This one has to be with consular officer. This one has to be a diplomat. So the issue is this. Can we say the Ekweremadu is a diplomat to be so covered with such privileges and immunity? That's another thing. But I believe states do have a channels in discussing this diplomatically. If that is what you are talking about, I think Nigeria needs to do that. And I want to believe that Nigeria is doing that, because I remember it got to a point that one has to contact the High Commissioner to really find out what they are doing about the Ekweremadu. Though I know this is not a subject of public discussion. I know Nigeria must be doing some things. But again, like I say, this is going to be one of the first time such conviction will have that. And you know, in most of those countries, they are targeting. The higher the profile, the higher it will be discussed. The higher it's discussed, the higher everybody seems to know about it. And the more people are known about it is to deter others from doing the same thing. Just so unfortunate, it has to be Ekweremadu, somebody I have respect for, somebody I call a friend, with a PhD holder in law, that this is happening to. But like I said, law is no respecter of anyone. And what is the main as of today, I don't think, though I'm not speaking as his lawyer, because I don't even know the strategy the lawyer is doing with the next step. Maybe they are going to appeal. But to me, what I think that needs to be done is to focus and to make it a high premium. Good enough. There's a good mood. Unfortunately, there's good mood in the United Kingdom, being in the coronation of the King Charles III. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we are not. I don't think that mood, we can say the mood in Nigeria is good now. So and I believe one of the first acts, I think, let me use this opportunity though I've even sent a letter to the king to see a way how he can exercise that royal prerogative for pardon, and that it can be done. He has that prerogative, and is a royal prerogative that can be done. That I believe Nigerian president, good enough, President Muhammadu Buhari is in the UK. Very sure he must see the King Charles tonight or tomorrow, and I believe that must provide an opportunity to speak about one of Nigerian officials to see that there must be a way out, particularly not on the fact that what he did is wrong or wrong, but the intention. Though when it comes to strict liability offense, nobody care about whether the intention. But we need to know that every parent will do the same thing, and based on that, there must be a way to ensure that at least conviction alone is even enough. Once you are conviction, particularly in the UK, I know what it is. Conviction sometimes is more greater than even sentencing. That's punishing anyone. There are many people that will be convicted that will not be punished, because what matters most is that concept, that issue that so person have been convicted. But there's always a way out. With this sense of prerogative of mercy, King Charles III has the prerogative, and it can be done tomorrow, can be done next tomorrow, but I believe Ekweremadu is due for that. And I think we should all come raise with one voice to ask for this. And I believe, after all, Nigerian government do give all these prerogative of mercy sometimes to some people. And I think if there must be anybody that's so qualified for that, I think it's Ekweremadu. That is what I think we should focus on, and that's what we should ask for.
Well, some have also talked about legal options available. I don't know if you could give some insight into that one as well, especially because
the legal option available, like I said, the UK law has its own tier, like Nigeria. If you remember, we take it from the UK. We have the High Court, which is a court of first instance, which has just delivered judgment today and passed the sentence today. And after that, we have the Court of Appeal before the Supreme Court. There are still other options. It depends on reading the judgment, and to say it is, I must confess, I'm yet to really read the judgment. The only thing is to watch what the judge was saying. Watching is different from when you dissect to review the judgment to know where there's any lapses. So one may not know whether the legal team of Ekweremadu will proceed to the Court of Appeal or go to the Supreme Court as it is. And for me, I'm sure nobody is asking for my opinion when it comes to that, but there's still some other option. But ask me as a private citizen, and what I think will be is what I believe would be the fastest, which is due for considering. Even today, you can see what the judge even mentioned, that his character is so perfect. There's no issue about that. It is just something that is so unfortunate, and it could happen to anybody. We have to be sincere. I know many people, we don't even need to look at this position. It could happen to anybody. I know what it means, modern law. My mother may do the same thing. And I know if my father is alive, if any of his children is having this issue, may take that too. These are the things we need to be sure about. It's just unfortunate that he may not really understand the way it works there. And I believe both the UK government and the courts, they are right on their own to do what they did today. But there must be a way out. And I believe that is what we should pursue.
A lot of people have talked about maybe lessons to be learned from this. I mean, this started as far back as June. Even this whole process started before that, before the police announced the arrest. What are the lessons to take away from this, maybe for Nigeria, the judiciary, across board?
Well, from the perception of that case, of that matter, there are a lot of lessons to be had, to be learned. Are we going to talk about the way the case is investigated? Even right from the beginning, you can see that it took the UK police, that Metropolitan Police, before even mentioning the name of Ekweremadu, not in Nigeria. I think that is a lesson to Nigerian police that when you are doing your investigation, you don't go overboard. You don't turn it to media trial. Do a very comprehensive, serious investigation and come out with your result at the end of the day. And apart from that, I think I was in the court once or twice, and you can see from the beginning, you can see the solemnity, you can see the way everybody conduct themselves in a proper manner. Not you see people carrying billboard shouting, and you see not everybody going to the media, castigating the judge and saying all sort of thing the way we used to do here. And I believe that is the carryover when you see some people writing letter to the court to say do away with the case. And apart from that, it has shown us that the law is no respecter of anyone. That the law will do its course, will take its course, even if ever must fall. Irrespective of your office, irrespective of your station in life, irrespective of how highly pleased you are. The judge even mentioned it, that this man is well known, his office is high, everything. But despite that, the law still takes its course. And that's what I believe all Nigerians should take home. And we should pray that our country too will find a way where we believe in the law, we believe in our judiciary, we believe in the system. The police, you can see, no one try to subvert the system. Like somebody mentioned yesterday that I didn't mean that this happened in Nigeria, Ekweremadu will have set free. And I told him it is not the court that will set him free, but the system, particularly even the investigator. You see in the country where even the IPO, that's the investigating police officer, will even be telling the victim of the crime, will be telling him you cannot do this, and will be cajoling them and forcing them to recount their statement. It is so sad, but I think there are many lessons to be learned, and that is part of it. That once you do things right, it is to cure some issue. Like I said, today in this whole world, global index of slavery over 40 million. I'm sure this case we has already bring to fore the slavery in different dimensions that it is, and this is the way to cure it. So when it comes to, even you find out that by the time you read that Slavery Act, that's Modern Slavery Act of 2015, you find out that even transaction, some kind of employment now, the way it is being counted, the way the employment agreement, that even can fall under the Modern Slavery Act. And I believe this is the way that Nigeria, particularly with their own peculiarity, we need to have such kind of law, to have modern slavery, because you can see the way even employment, and more particularly by employment and compensation of workers in Nigeria, you can see that all what is happening in the name of employment, even is another modern slavery. And with this, I think our legislator, our lawyers, and all the stakeholders need to take hints from this law and to ensure that there's a way to build a great nation, and that is the beginning of doing that.
Well, I wouldn't let you go without asking you this question, because Nigeria is gearing up for some sort of legal fireworks. On Monday, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal is meant to swing into full gear. And I wonder what your expectations are, really, because all eyes will now be on our own tribunal, our own courts.
Well, you know, I'm a Christian and we pray every day. And one of our Father's prayer is that thou shalt not lead me into temptation. I pray I will not be led into temptation by asking this question. A matter is already before the court. And as a lawyer, that hold to know, one should not make any comment that may prejudice or that can affect the whatever that is being discussed. You can see I mentioned some minutes ago that there are some letters, some comment can interfere into the course of justice. So, but one thing I believe is this: on Monday, the firework will start. One thing that I'm so certain is that I've seen the list of the judges, the panel. There are those that have spent their time on that bench that have read most of their judgment. I believe in them. I have faith in them. And none of them have been found wanting here and there. And I keep on saying this. It is only in political cases that you see that our people accusing judges of corruption and all that. And I pray all those that will do all those accusations should go home and sleep, because we're having great men and women sitting on that panel to do justice, and I'm sure justice will be done. I don't want to go into who is right or who is wrong, whether the petition is perfect or whether the petition is watery. I don't think I would really love to comment on that, in as much I would really love, but as a lawyer, you have to conform with the law. But one thing I think I need to assure Nigeria, and I'm assuring myself, is that great men are sitting in that panel, and justice that we so crave for will be done.
Well, my question is essentially to ask for your general expectations. Never would I lead you into temptation, but I'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Kayode Ajilo, legal practitioner, fellow chartered Institute of Arbitrators, United Kingdom, and managing partner, Castle of Law, London. Thank you once again for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, just in case, you're just catching up, let's just give you a background, really, the timeline to these issues, just in case you're wondering what exactly played out here. What were the issues? Well, it started publicly from June the 23rd, 2022, that was last year, when the London Metropolitan Police announced that he has arrested Senator Ekweremadu and his wife Beatrice for conspiring to bring an alleged 15-year-old boy to the UK for organ harvesting. Subsequently, the couple pleaded not guilty at the Uxbridge Magistrate Court and were remanded in custody. 2 days after, the University of Lincoln barred Senator Ekweremadu as a visiting professor, barred him from undertaking further duties. Some days after, the Nigerian immigration confirmed the age of the said kidney donor was 21 and not 15. That had been a contentious issue. And 3 days later, the Nigerian High Commission hired lawyers to defend Senator Ekweremadu. But that's not all. The next day, he appeared before Uxbridge Magistrates Court again, and it was charged under Britain's Modern Slavery Act. And of course, the case was fast-tracked, as we've seen, moved on back to Nigeria. It was crossing jurisdiction. The Federal High Court, Abuja, ordered NIMC to transmit the certified true copy of the biodata of the victim to the Attorney General for transmission to the UK. And then the prosecution accepted his age was actually 21 and not 15, contrary to the claims. Of course, on July the 22nd, Dr. Beta was charged with plotting with the family to traffic this man to harvest his kidney for their 25-year-old daughter, Sonia. And just 4 days after, the Old Bailey granted bail to Beatrice, his wife, but refused to grant bail to her husband. Fast forward to December, the end of last year, when Senator Ekweremadu actually accused the EFCC of being responsible for his travails in the United Kingdom, and essentially told the Federal High Court that the agency wrote a letter to the London court, which didn't allow them grant him bail. Also in December, the criminal court denied him bail on the grounds that he may flee the country. And early this year, the case picked up with Senator Ekweremadu and his wife appearing in court, but their daughter was unable to attend because she was in hospital. February the 6th, the prosecutor said that the victim was coached and said that they essentially sang from the same hymn book to create a fake family history. And March the 9th, during cross-examination, Senator Ekweremadu told the court why he wanted to buy the kidney for his daughter and the reasons surrounding that. In fact, his wife, some days after, testified in court and described her husband as a good man whom she had come to trust. But all that didn't quite matter, because after a 6-week trial at the Old Bailey, Senator Ekweremadu, his wife, and their doctor were convicted of organ trafficking. Sonia, their daughter, was cleared, in fact. And then we saw all the pleas for clemency from former President Olusegun Obasanjo on April the 3rd to the Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament on April the 6th. May the 2nd and 3rd, the House of Reps and the Senate wrote, and it came down to what we have today, the sentencing of Senator Ekweremadu, his wife, and their doctor. So that's a journey up until this point. Well, it looks like the journey is not over just yet, depending on which way it swings, but we'll be here to give you the breaking stories as they come. But we'll take a quick break now, and when we return, we'll get into the realm of the Labour Party. What exactly is going on with this leadership impasse? The Julius Abure faction, the Lamidi Akpakpa faction, they've been holding meetings, resolutions have been coming out. But who should Nigerians believe? That's the questions we'll be getting answers to in a moment. Please stay with us. Well, politics with its never-ending intrigues. Wednesday this week saw a new twist within the Labour Party, because in Bauchi State, the Lamidi Akpakpa-led faction of the party held the NEC meeting. That's the National Executive Council meeting, where they made several resolutions. They suspended some members, they affirmed some others, and made some key decisions. But in faraway Abuja, the nation's capital, the NWC, loyal to the Julius Abure leadership, actually gave a press briefing asking Nigerians to discountenance the NEC meeting that held in Bauchi State, calling it illegal, unconstitutional, and the sorts. So, I mean, what do Nigerians believe? Don't forget the cases in court, the decision that came from the court in Abuja and the one from the court in Benin City. So let's just get a sense of where the Labour Party is right now with all of those back and forths. And we're joined on the program this evening by Mr. Yunusa Tanko, who's the chief spokesperson, the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council. Is also National Director Media of Labour Party. He joins us live from our Abuja studio. Good evening, Mr. Yunusa Tanko. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Kaide. Good evening, Nigerians.
Good evening. And also joining us virtually is Mr. Abayomi Arabambi, who is the National Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party. Well, this is, they say, of the Lamidi Akpakpa faction, loyal to him. He joins us virtually also from Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. Good evening, Mr. Arabambi. It's good to have you on the program as well.
Yeah, good evening, Nigerians. Thank you, Mr. Akawade.
Well, let's begin with you, because you held that NEC meeting against the background of the the NWC loyal to Comrade Abure, saying that it is illegal, it is unconstitutional, and all of that. But just briefly tell us what came out of that NEC, and just how, will I say, justiciable is it?
Well, thank you very much. On the 5th of April, the Abuja NCT Court gave the following that another of interim injunction is granted, restraining first to 4 defendants. That's Julius Abure, Farouk, Umar, Olusegun, and Clement Ojukwu. Their agents, privies, servant, employee, and representative, whatsoever and howsoever described, from parading themselves as the national chairman, national secretary, national treasurer, and national organizing secretary of the 5th defendant, which is Labour Party, pending determination of motion of notice. That was the order of Abuja. Now, in Benin, Abure ran to court, and around 6 p.m. that day, this is the enrollment of order granted by the respected judge. Upon motion is filed by the claimant applicant, the Honorable Court, too, with granted an order of interim injunction restraining first, second defendant, which is the Ward Chairman and Ward Secretary of Oromi Ward, Ward 3, from submitting or transmitting the purported notice of suspension signed by the Ward 3 Executive of Labour Party. 2, another interim injunction restraining the 3rd defendant, which is Labour Party in its own case, from acting or executing and implementing the purported notice of suspension. Now, this is where we are going to distinguish the two.
Mr. Arabambi, I just want you to go straight to just some of those resolutions and how justiciable they are, essentially.
Yeah, the justifiable fact is what I'm bringing out. Now, the law is settled that where an order is made, you must comply with the order of the court, pending the discharge or overturn of the same. The court, in several cases, have decided, one, in the case of Nigerian Army versus Mowari in 1994, part 235, page 235, volume 345, that no distinction exists between interim, interlocutory, or final order of duty to obey, comply with such order while it subsists. An order once issued by a court, with requisite jurisdiction and competence, must be obeyed by a party, even if, in his or opinion, the order was perverse. Now, when you have an order that restrains you from functioning in an office, Abure proceeded to Asaba against court order on the 18th to go and make certain proclamation. And we know as a fact that Labour Party is law-abiding, and that is why whatever they have done there is null and void, because that order has not been vacated. But the order in Benin said NWC should not receive the notice of of suspension. That was on the 5th. Something that had been submitted, that was done on the 30th, that was submitted to NWC on the 2nd. So what he did in Edo was to suppress facts before the judge that, they have not done that. And the judge, in the opinion, has accepted that Abure have been suspended because the order was the NWC must not accept the transmission. Now,
just a moment, Mr. Obambi, you have laid the background. It's only fair to allow Mr. Yunusa Tanko come in, specifically on those court cases you mentioned and the chairman, Mr. Julius Abure's position right now. So, Mr. Yunusa Tanko, it's over to you now. Your response.
Well, thank you very much. I want to say, ab initio, that this particular issue has no local standing right from the beginning. Because this particular individual have had issues with the party, and individuals like my dear comrade there, Arabambi, has already been suspended from the party. And already him and comrade Anselm, who are both part of the leadership of those particular group, already do not have any particular legal backing. So you cannot put something on nothing. And with regard to the issue of going to court, the two jurisdictions, the two court cases were very much in consonant with each other. And then at the same time, Julius Abure obeyed the positions of the court. He went to the police station, make his positions known, and wrote a document actually exonerating himself from the issue of forgery and making sure that there is no legal issue denying him of presenting himself as the chairman of the Labour Party. What took place in Asaba was very, very clear. And the decisions of the party was also very, very clear. This particular individual cannot continue to present themselves as leaders of the party because they have no local standing. Article 17 of the party is clearly stated that for a chairman of the party to be removed from office, there must be a national convention specifically called for that particular purpose. That was not ahead too. So in the beginning, they did not even form a quorum, not even to meet the threshold of the leadership of the party. So their own position is actually null and void. And that is the reason why the position in Asaba was very clear, giving Abure 1 more year to conduct a national convention, making sure that his status as a chairman of the party remains. And if you read very clearly, if you watch that particular position very clearly, these positions were read by Comrade Ilya, who actually make those particular statements. I decided to call Comrade Arabambi as a comrade because I thought they were people that believe in the cause of the party. But for them to have gone to this particular level, it shows that they are not really interested in building a party. And that, of course, is inimical and injurious to the survival of the party and its general. So, and that way, these issues have been dealt because they've gone very far beyond the thresholds of a normal people who believe in the system. So we are disappointed that they could go this particular because there are mechanisms to be dealt with within the thresholds of the party that will have dealt with these matters that they are raising. And I want to state clearly here that Abure has not conducted himself in any manner to be thought to have done any forgery, because the person in question in the first place signed a form. That form was presented to INEC, and that particular INEC form would make him to become a candidate. Later on, the withdrawal was the same signature, and so if he claims that he himself did not sign in the first place, that means he is not a candidate ab initio. So it's very, very clear. So I think what Nigerian people should wait for, which we do not want to really delve in, because what they are doing is more or less causing a distraction, because we really want to focus on our case in the court. What we have decided to do was to ignore any part of this particular, distraction that they are trying to cause into the system, and
Mr. Tanko,
let everybody wait.
So let's
on the 12th of May, the substance of the case will be dealt with in the court, and that will have killed the matter once and for all. So we will not face this particular issue of diversionary measure in trying to get the Nigerian people out of the way. Even if they are being paid to do so, I think they should forget about it, because it's not going to hold water.
Well, just before Mr. Arabambi comes in quickly, just to be clear, so are you saying that the order from the Abuja High Court is not being obeyed, and Comrade Abure still remains the chairman of the party?
We obey the competent jurisdiction of the court. There are two court cases here, and we alluded to two of them, and we alluded to the same part. And I think that particular judgment in the case of Abuja, I want to believe was made in error, because the expertise orders mostly are made in defense of the persons in office. It's not to cause mayhem within the system. If you look at the way it's been coined, it's coined in such a way that the 7 days supposed to have expired, but that 7 days will say until the substances matter has been dealt with. If you look at the records of most of the judgment that have been given expertise order, there's nothing that looks similar to that. But then we will give so much respect to our court case, to our court, and then our judges, but we will wait. And because we actually have asked for a kind of expertise motion to be on those particular cases. In fact, the case will have been dealt with since on the 5th of May, but it has been adjourned to the 12th of May. So I think Nigerians should wait for the 12th of May, and I think that will have been bye-bye to this particular distraction that they are trying to cause to our court case, and then trying to deny Peter Obi of a global case that he has in the court.
Well, Mr. Arabambi, I mean, he's described this as a distraction, and he's talked about that forgery and perjury issue, which is at the heart of all of these litigations. And I wonder what your response is to that.
Well, thank you very much. See, the bunch of people with Aburi are people, that we thought they came to the Labour Party with genuine intentions. The comrade seated there knows fully well that his position was recognized now because of what is happening. We are members of the same political party. What causes the problem was because they were trying, even ab initio, to southernize Labour Party. In the PCC that we formed, where did the DG come from? The South? The deputy, or Seluka, from the Anambra? The Secretary General from Anambra? Who does that? How many times has Tanko represented Peter Obi? They know the people they call. These are some of the things that we, the original Labour Party owner, we will not sit down to condone. Now, in their speech, which we have the video, let me tell you what they said. And they are in tribunal. They said, this is unfortunate because if it were not for the expertise order of the FCTI court, mischievously granted and sustained by Justice Amsa Muazu, which dangerously exposes the rest. That is where this is the party that exposes the party to danger. Abure was seated there and he called himself a lawyer, where a judge was being criticized that he mischievously. How was the judge mischievous? That the Minister Ezioko was substituted with architect Ukeagu, the owner of Barcelona. We went to police station. Ukeagu wrote a statement that is with the police that he gave 200 million naira to Olushapara. It's in the statement. And only two of them have gone to police station to make statement. But why has Abure not been able to come out? Was that person not substituted? Now, if Comrade Tanko is telling me they obey court order, do you know, Kayode, that immediately after we discover We went to Federal Court. We won. Who appealed the judgment? Abure appealed against that judgment. Definitely, he knew what he was doing. We won at the Court of Appeal. Abure appealed to Supreme Court. We won in the Supreme Court. Do you know what happened 3 days after? Peter Obi himself went on a sister television, arrived, to say we don't have candidates in Ebonyi. After Supreme Court judgment, and yet we call ourselves a nationalist party. We are not anybody that any people will come from PDP until we can be overrun. We have learned our lesson over time. Abure has been restrained, and thank God corporate said they are coming to court on the 12th. What are you coming to defend when you are already in contempt of the court? Why this matter last year, Abure wrote a letter to INEC, which we have copied. Abure wrote 2 letters to INEC, one in case of Lagos, one in case of Rivers State. For God's sake, is it how we want to run our country? When somebody come, we back it to corridor, we say, oh, we admit you, go and see no more. That was not what Labour Party is all about. Okay. You have seen what they did in Asaba. Everybody they remove, they put Igbo people there. It's our party name for only Imo and Anambra people. That was not what we want. That's why PO himself, unfortunately said he doesn't know Apapa. But let me tell you, Apapa was the person that did the opening prayer. I have a candidate, a president candidate in that Asaba when we elected him. I asked the guy to step down. The video are there. They said they don't know us. Does that mean it's our candidate? It's an insult for a man who just spent 12 months in a party to say you don't know such another statement, because himself and Abure, they have soiled their hand. A lot is going to come out. We have a lot of our money between them that they didn't release for the election.
How much is that? How much are you referring to, Commander Bambi? Just how much?
PO is standing with Abure because they have a lot of things in common.
All right. Let's get Mr. Tanko Unicef to respond to this, particularly the question about respect of courts, the judges, especially because there's a case now in tribunal. How do you respond to that?
And we only want to believe that that particular judgment was made in error, and I've stated it. So in answer of respecting the court order, Abure respected the court order by making sure that he vacated the court case in Benin. And then he emerges as the chairman of the party and is continues in the position. In the case of the Abuja case, he has made it very clear he has gone to the court to challenge this particular position, and also have asked for an ex parte motion to be granted on this particular matter, and which he obeyed. So what is wrong with that? He has not in any way flouted the court order in any way whatsoever. So in that case, for those who are trying to cause these distractions, Bambi should be very mindful of the fact that if he believes that he was doing whatever they are doing in the interest of the party, you wouldn't have come out to accuse the party that all of you have also, one way or the other, claimed to your highest position in life. You couldn't have done that. But then here you are. Of course, probably you may have your reasons for doing what you are doing. But then for us in the Labour Party, we will be ready to forgive anybody who is trying to, but we are going to focus on our court case. And that, I think, should be the matter in this particular discussion. Because on May 10th, the case of Peter Obi and the so-called president-elect will be dealt with. And we are saying that the court have the right to have dealt with this matter according to Section 285 of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to deal with this particular matter. You have the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria gave them 180 days. And 180 days does not mean that you must exhaust those 180 days. You have within 90 days to deal with this matter so that the leadership of whoever is taking over leadership of this country will not have issue of litigation hanging. And then the Nigerian people will be satisfied that the system is cleaned. And then a lot of people are claiming that we should have had an interim government. The Section 146, subsection 2 of the Constitution made it very clear. In the case where there's a vacuum in the presidency and the vice president, the Senate president take over. And in this case, if the president...
Mr. Yunusa Tanko, as you quoted Section 285 of the Constitution, it gives 180 days. And in fact, when former Governor Peter Obi, when he won that case against former Governor Nkike, it was almost 3 years, and he eventually won. So, and I know that the NEC, which held in Bauchi, releases in that statement that they will not be a party to any unlawful acts to cause a change of democratic administration violently as anticipated by Barrister Julius Abure. So quickly, Mr. Arababi, do you agree with his submission?
That's where the crux of the matter is, Kaide.
Right.
That is where the crux of the matter is.
So, Comrade Arababi, do you agree with Mr. Yunus Atanko's submission?
That they are trying to just cause a mayhem within the system.
Totally.
We are following laws. They say we should go. We say we should go to court. We are already going to court.
There must not be any attempt by anybody. There must be any attempt by anybody to cause a constitutional of government because we lose an election.
Well,
I
gentlemen,
am going to put a lot of question to him.
Right.
We were in
but gentlemen, we have to run now.
Ask them why PDP were excluded.
What did you say?
Ask them why PDP were excluded from that petition.
Okay, well, we have to run now, and I think that we can pick up this conversation on another day. We're totally out of time, gentlemen. But you know what? We hope to continue this because major issues have been raised, and I think the coming days will give us that time. But we'd like to thank you so much, Comrade Yomi Arabambi, who is the National Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party, and Mr. Yunus Atanko, the Chief Spokesperson of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you so much for your time on the program. Well, that's been our package for tonight. Yes, politics always intriguing. We're back on Sunday with Sunday Politics. I'm Kayode Kikiolu. Good night.